Hey, welcome to Behind Our Portraits. This is the podcast where we tear through the images of ourselves we show this world to uncover the truth about who we are, what we do, and how we see this life. Let's get into it. Hey, my name is JoJo. I will be your host for today's episode. This is the very first episode of this series, and we are going in deep. Is it just me, or is life really making adults out of us? Stay tuned. We're going to have a chat about some of the lessons life has taught us the hard way, and how we can use these lessons to change our perspectives about who we are and how we see our lives. Let's get into it. If you like what you hear, like what you see, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss this. We're fixing to have a real conversation. All right, so today I wanted to start this series off just having a conversation with you guys, if it's all right. At first, I was going to talk about young adulthood, but it just wasn't gingering me. So I was like, nah, scratch that. We're just going to talk about how different life has been over the past couple of years. And just talking about the different things that life has taught me over the course of these past couple of years. I do want you to keep your life in mind as we go through this episode and kind of have this conversation. I will be sharing my perspective, but, just take what resonates. We're just going to have a conversation, all right? Okay, so for me, over the past year before last, and going into last year, I hit a rough patch. Life really said we're starting all the way over, and I was quite shooketh. I started the year before last just kind of dealing with a breakup in a long-term relationship, and kind of having that in combination with a loss of self and a loss of sense of direction triggered my mental breakdown, and it led me into this period of severe depression. It was a period of my life I'd actually never navigated before. It was quite shaking. It shook me way more than I thought it would. I felt very unhinged. I couldn't tell up from down, left from right. I literally felt like a living zombie. And, after some time in therapy and talking with myself, I got a little bit of clarity about certain situations. And I realized a lot of the situations, the things I attached myself to, I had either outgrown or was requiring more energy than I actually had available to give. And, I also realized a lot of it didn't align with me. And the end of the relationship was the straw that broke the camel's back, but I had been allowing a lot of situations in my career and my friendships and within myself, honestly, to consume me to the point where I wasn't even living my own life authentically. I realized I was living my life for other people. I was living my life out of comfortability, holding on to ideas and situations that I should have let go of a long time ago. And, realizing this was just the starting place. And to be quite honest, it made me feel more lost than anything. Honestly, all I knew was I was fed up. I was tired of putting myself in situations. It felt unreciprocated. And, my motto over the next year became, if I don't want to do it or if it's not serving me, I'm out. And that's on period. And, you couldn't keep me in a situation that I didn't want to be in, right? And, for the first time, I was learning what it meant to choose yourself, and I've heard that a lot, you just choose yourself. And it wasn't until I was kind of cornered, just by not having anything else to give, that I was like, I can't do this with you guys. I can't do this with certain situations, but now I was faced with all these confusing and quite irritating thoughts about what my purpose was. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a nurse, and I've prided myself on being able to say that, not only because of what society thinks about nurses or, the hell I went through to become a nurse, but how God and the universe kind of stood in alignment and said, you are a healer. And that resonated in my spirit. It is who I am. I believe my purpose in this world is to come in and heal people, whether that's physically, but emotionally, mentally. I want to be someone's healer. And, that's something, that is embedded in every fiber of my being. And so, when I could finally say I was a nurse, it became my identity. And there is a difference. It's like I really didn't have an identity of my own. I wasn't really an individual. I used being a nurse to say who I was. And we'll get into that on a different podcast, but just keep that in mind. So flash forward to when I felt like my life was falling apart. I started to look at the thing that I knew about myself, the one thing that I wouldn't question, and ask myself if this was really for me, if I really wanted to continue to be a nurse. And, obviously do keep in mind, COVID was a thing. Life was really hard for nurses, and we were struggling mentally and emotionally and physically to just keep up in general. And, for me, I was absolutely exhausted mentally, physically, and emotionally. I was drained. And, nursing required me to give more of myself than I actually had available. And this was, just bad timing, because it came at a time where I had nothing left to give. And, those that know me know that I want to be able to extend myself in that type of a situation, when someone is vulnerable, but I had nothing left to give. I'd never been in such a position in life where I couldn't help anyone. I couldn't even help myself. And, I realized I needed a shift. I needed to give myself time to regain my strength. I needed to try something different. And, I started trying other things, trying to put myself in different departments and all that. I honestly realized I couldn't, and I needed to leave the bedside. And that's what I did. I ended up leaving the bedside with no real plan. And, I was very scared. Not having a plan, not having security, not knowing what to do next is something that mentally torments me still. That's one of my biggest issues. So having to deal with that and have no plan it just gave me so much anxiety, right? And so quarter life crises are a thing. I realized that when I had my own. And for those of you that are having your own quarter life crisis or will someday meet that time, your frustration is valid. The confusion you're feeling is kind of like a rite of passage. Sometimes life needs to be shaken up a bit. It needs to be turned upside down for change to actually manifest. Change, willing or unwilling, will come. The frustration, the confusion, the slip-ups, the misfortunes, you need to see them all as catalysts for change. And I had to change my perspective on how I saw that time period in my life. I'm gonna be honest with you, I sat in the feelings for a long time, probably longer than I should have. Until I realized, one, this is not doing anything for me. I literally haven't moved from this bed in days. And how is that benefiting me? How is that benefiting the people around you? What are you doing different? And so I had to challenge myself to see this confusing time in my life as an opportunity to change it up, to get creative about what may need to be done in my life, what additional things I can add to myself, to what other things I can explore, And I do challenge you to try to embrace this time period as well. If you are going through it, keep in mind, you are not alone. There are a lot of people that are around you that are going through the same thing. And even though they're not talking about it, they're going through it. You know what I mean? And not many people know how to really even articulate the frustration and the fear that comes with this time period. So it's really hard to have conversations about being in such a unsettling time. And but here's the difference, between all of us that have the quarter life crises and go through those situations and those periods in life, right? Some stay frustrated and sit in bed like I did for days, or some of us will get down to business and realize that I can't stay here. I can't lay here. I got to figure it out. I have no other choice but to figure it out. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. Yes, all the things, but this ain't any better. And, I challenge you to push past the frustration. I had to challenge myself to push past the days where I was just like, man, I don't get it. I don't understand what is going on. I don't know what I'm doing, why I'm here. And I just started asking myself really unproductive questions, right? And, I challenge you to just take a step. Throw yourself in any direction. Forwards, sideways, diagonal, you get the thing. Just don't go backwards. Don't lay there. Don't sit there. Don't mope for so long. You know what I mean? And I encourage you to lean into the change, lean into the opportunity, because it's crazy, just realizing how taking a step puts you in places that you never thought imaginable. And I will be talking about my experiences in full on a later podcast, but I am a big, supporter of that thought. You just don't know where saying yes or saying, you know what, I'm just gonna just do this will take you. And I kind of want us to change our perspective. I say I don't know a lot. Like, I literally say it subconsciously. Like, I don't know how, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't. And change the narrative to, I have yet to find out. I have yet to discover, and see where that opportunity takes you. Okay. So yes, we are going to talk about it. Keeping up with the Joneses. Okay. So, everything is still happening all at once. You're healing, you're still growing, and it seems like you're front row and center to the best show ever, and it's called Everybody Else's Life. And it makes you feel like your show isn't as interesting because, well, God gave you the awesome gift of being a critic, and you're the best critic. And based off of a snapshot, an Instagram post, you have decided that you've got to step your game up and you got to keep up with the pack. And that's what I did for a while until I got tired. For a while, it was really, really hard for me to look at somebody else's life and think that they were living my dream. And at the time, obviously, I didn't feel like I had a lot of control in my life. And although I was keeping up appearances, inside I was spiraling and looking down on every decision I made, second guessing myself. I was down bad. And for a while, I sat in my negative thoughts and I allowed myself to criticize just about everything I did. And it wasn't until I started being a little bit more vocal and vulnerable about how life was actually going for me that I quickly found out that everything really isn't as it seems. And people were really going through some hardships and were just as confused, just as irritated, just as trapped, felt like they were just, trapped in their own lives as well. It took having these conversations for me to realize two things. One, I really need to watch how I talk about myself. My inner dialogue was absolutely trash. And I realized that I need to watch how I speak to myself, because most of the time the negative thoughts I had about myself in regards to how my life was going were not actually true. And I was feeding myself lies. I realized that they were actually a result of having a lack of vision and confidence about my own life and my journey. The second thing I realized is it is not beneficial to think that I'm in competition with anybody else but myself. And that I will lose at this comparison game every time. There is this book called 12 Rules for Life. It is by Jordan Peterson. And I want to share rule number 4 with you guys. And it is, rule number 4 is compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not who somebody is today. I'm going to repeat that because that's quite a, simple line, but think about it. So compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not who someone is today. Everyone, believe it or not, is fighting their own battle on the inside. And it's very easy to forget, because of how most of us present ourselves in public, me included. The basis of doing this podcast, the name behind our portraits, I think a lot of us hide behind the images that we present in public, whether that's on social media, whether that's your physical just appearance. I do believe that what we present isn't who we actually are, and that we hide behind a lot of facades. And obviously it's hard to be the real you, and maybe sometimes not beneficial in certain situations, but we don't show the real version of us probably 80% of the time, right? So knowing this, you will never truly know what someone has sacrificed to live the life that they live. You will never truly understand their story. 1, because they probably haven't said it yet, and 2, because you have some misconceived perception of who they are. And, same goes for you. No one will really understand the sacrifices that you had to go through. No one will understand, what it took to get to the level that you are, or why you are where you are, And it's just to keep that in mind, you got to run your race. You got to stay in your lane. I know we hear that a lot, but it's actually it's real facts. I can't run your race. Why? 1, I wasn't equipped with the tools nor molded in the way that you were molded to be successful at winning your race. And that's the same, that even the idea of a race, life is not a race. It is a journey. It is a marathon. And a lot happens during a marathon, a lot of preparation, a lot of roads are taken, and it's different for everybody. And just keeping in mind, me trying to keep up with the Joneses, I'm talking about myself sitting here trying to compare myself to old girl or old boy, and think I'm a failure is not beneficial. I don't know what they had to go through to be where they're at. I don't know if they actually even enjoy where they're at, and we know these things, but everything looks better than it actually seems. I think, to be fair, it's hard. Focusing on your life in the present moment. Yes, you may not be where you want to be, and that's fair, but what's an even better thought? Focusing on how you can get there with what you have now. Keep inching at your pace. You will find what you're looking for in its truest form, and it will be specific to your journey. I learned really quickly that life is just that, a series of transitions. And this period of life has a bunch of them. And I think it should be expected and is natural in several aspects of life. Sometimes life will feel like it is in limbo. And I think that is life's way of just trying to find balance. Transitions are frustrating, because you never really know or feel like you have a grip of what's going on. And I feel like you have an idea, but that's about it. In truth, we never really do know what's the next step. For me, life's sudden left turns were distressing because just as soon as I would save my life and feeling like I was in a battle to save my life, here would come some more nonsense that would throw me right off. And it just left me feeling more confused and feeling stuck. It wasn't until I was at a particular time in life where I decided to leave work altogether, to try and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And for the first time, I realized I actually didn't have a solid plan. I didn't have an escape plan at all. And I felt stuck. And for the first time, I realized how scary it is to be in such a situation. I literally had nothing else to lean on but my faith. And even then, I felt like I was drowning in my own worries and in my anxiety. And Now, I guess in the moment, I was obviously over it, like most of us would be, right? But looking back, I realized how necessary those unstable moments were for my growth. I remember asking God, develop me, mold me, change me. And he said, gotcha, I'm listening. And, it wasn't until after this storm calmed down that I understood, what change actually meant, what asking for change meant, what growth actually required. And I'm still learning. But so far I've learned that the uncertainty is part of the plan. You do learn a lot about yourself when you have no point of reference anymore. And I encourage you to lean into those moments, to challenge yourself, to rediscover yourself, see yourself in a different light, right? I know it sounds crazy and scary, but you really do learn how flexible, how capable, how creative you'll get to get back to some form of normalcy. All to realize, there's no such thing as normal. There's no such thing as stable. I remember I used to pray, God, I just want to have a stable life. I just want to be stable. I just want to feel stable. And it wasn't until I went through this period that I realized, what a silly question to ask. Life isn't about stability. And in a sense, life isn't stable. It's life. Stability doesn't exist in life because life is meant to take you through things. There's a lot of transitions. There's a lot of change that happens in the course of life. So stability isn't but a temporary thing, a temporary fix, a moment in time, And I would ask, please, Lord, let me be stable. Let me just feel normal. And then I realized, there's no such thing as normal. There's no such thing as stable. This is life. And you have to learn to roll with the waves, to take things as they come, embrace things, release things, and learning to be fluid, learning to let go of control. And that was a thing for me that I personally realized is one of the most difficult things for me to do. I like to maintain control. And the idea of maintaining control is one of the most deceptive things I feel like you can try and convince yourself is actually real, that you can control situations, you can control outcomes. I learned that during this time, getting control or maintaining control requires releasing. It sounds so weird, but when I let go, I felt more in control of the things that were coming through life. As in, I wasn't as phased, I wasn't as thrown off. I allowed things to come and go in its natural form. And I think that was one of the most complex / beautiful realizations that I've come to, and I'm still learning to allow space for, and hopefully you can too. So I've been asked what the hardest thing is that I've had to overcome so far in my adulthood. And I think that's actually a great question for you guys to kind of focus on yourself. Mostly because it tells you a lot about yourself and possibly what genre of personal development that you may need to focus on for growth, right? And, but if I had to ask, what do you think would be the hardest thing to overcome? And I have, and most have said failure, public humiliation, putting the blunt away, putting the bottle away, facing their demons, or just saying yes to starting all over again. And, quite honestly, it's all hard. I can't even say that I've completely overcome the hard things. I feel like I'm learning little lessons as I go, but I think the hardest concept for me to understand, to embrace, was giving myself grace through processes. And by the way, I hate processes. I'm a very immediate gratification type person, and I want everything now and to be everything now. And I'm also really hard on myself. In my mind, I should be stronger, smarter, less unhinged, less lazy, etc. And I rarely stop to think about how far I've actually come. I struggle to look at myself and say, like, hey, you've done your best today. You're not perfect. Maybe today all you needed to be was here, present, and that's okay. That's enough. But when I've talked with some of you guys, I think that's one of the things we get caught up in, and it's wanting to be everything all at once. And I feel like we're left disappointed when we can't honor such an impossible task. You know, giving myself grace is still the hardest thing I'm learning to overcome. I had to learn the hard way, as I do most times, that part of giving myself grace is surrendering to the fact that I'm not God, that things are not in my control and I cannot control every outcome. And, you know, resting in the fact that I can only do so much is what has saved me from my own thoughts. Sorting through my thoughts, identifying what I can solve with what I have now, and identifying what is the most pressing and focusing my energy there, you know, and admitting that there will be days that things are out of my hands. Sometimes we do forget we are human beings, and the world around us has added a lot of pressure to be great. And it makes it really hard for you to slow your life down, you know, and look at yourself. And the pressure, you know, pressure when applied forces movement, right? You know, which can be helpful, as we know. You know, sometimes we need the extra pushes, but when applied in the wrong manner at the wrong time, the pressure can actually produce stagnancy and this feeling of being stuck. And the pressure is getting worse. We have got to relax. We have got to relax. You have got to relax. You know, the world may never stop adding this pressure, but you can definitely control how much pressure you will take. You know, this is something that I am trying to instill in myself regularly, is, you know, making time to take time to yourself and evaluate, you know, what is the situation that is most pressing in my mind. We all have one. It may be a situation you're possibly avoiding. And, you know, really, you know, determine your limitations. Determine what your limitations are. How much energy you will give. How much energy you can realistically give to the situation. You know, I feel like sometimes we're avoiding addressing the pressing thoughts because of the fear that we actually will realize, like, it's out of our control. It's not in our hands. And some of us will, you know, take this idea and then just kind of feel like I have no control. And I found that, you know, sometimes surrendering certain ideas of control actually allows room for peace of mind. And not only the peace of mind, but a change of perspective and possibly a light to a new path that you never could have thought of or would have never stumbled upon, you know? And the idea is that, as we Africans say, I cannot come and kill myself. And this means, like, if it is out of my hands, I'm not expending any of my peace to try and make sense of or control a situation that is beyond my wits. I had to learn that giving myself grace, you know, to have these conversations allows me to take pressure off of myself and learn how to redirect my thoughts and my energy towards things that are more productive. And I'm hoping that that is something that you may be able to take away from this conversation. You know, sometimes we need to address the hard things in our head. Sometimes we need to stop running away from the ideas or the things that are pressing and really just be honest with ourselves. Sometimes it's something that we cannot control. We cannot fix. It is out of our control, whatever the situation may be. But it is important to come to that realization and then move and then redirect your energy towards something more productive, towards something that is within your means. And, you know, at the end of the day, peace of mind is the name of the game. And the hope is we learn how to master it. But with all that being said, there's so many things to look forward to. I am excited to connect with people, to meet new people, to be in settings that I never thought I would be in, have conversations that I never thought I would have. I think that's one of the most exciting things about this portion of life. You're actually in a space where you're meeting and connecting with different people, and I think it's exciting. I think it's awesome. I'm ready to, like, learn about other people and hear their stories and share my story and, you know, just kind of leave little speckles of influence in each other's lives. And, you know, I'm learning the things that are my passions, figuring out what I'm actually passionate about, beside a career, you know, looking internally and actually trying to develop myself, to become an individual, to learn what being an individual means. I'm discovering myself. It's discovering more and more about myself, like, each day, which is wild. It's like you learn the things that you said I don't know, or I can't, or I won't, and you just do, and then you realize, like, wow, I'm capable of so much more. I'm a pretty impressive being, like, and that's pretty cool to, like, speak for yourself, like, you know, just been like, dang, I actually can do some stuff. I'm actually a cool kid, like, you know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know, I'm in this discovery phase. I'm growing. I'm excited for growth. I'm excited about the growth that I see happening out within this generation. There's a lot of thinking going on, a lot of therapy. People are trying to get a lot of healing. People are trying to be better than the generation before them. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. I think we're on the right track. Yes, we're not perfect. Yes, our generation has things going on, but we are really trying to fix some of the traumas that have been put on us and make it so that our kids or the next generation doesn't have to deal with it. And I'm really proud. I'm really impressed at the work that is being done to try and, you know, navigate this. And I'm also, like, just excited to see where we take ourselves, just enjoying life, trying to take the pressure off. Honestly, I love what I do. I love nursing, but I am, hear me now, saying the hashtag, I am not just a nurse. We're trying to figure out what else is going on in life, what else I'm capable of. And I think that is something that you should too. Whatever career you're in, whatever job, you are not just your job. You are an individual that is capable of so much. And I think now is the perfect time to try and explore that, to indulge in that. Look at what gingers your soul, what you see, what interests you, what may be quirky, what may be different that you never thought of. I mean, explore your fears, explore the things that you said no to, that you know, look at those, reevaluate those questions, reevaluate those no's, those I can'ts, and you never know where saying yes to something will take you. And so I'm excited to see what life has to offer. I'm excited to have more conversations with you guys, to bring you guys more interesting conversations. This is, like I said, the first episode of this series. We're gonna have way more interesting conversations with some really interesting people, so I am excited to bring this to you guys. It has been a project I've been working on for a minute, but with that being said, this is Behind Our Portraits. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, I will see you then. Hey, it's JoJo. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you're looking forward to and how you're working on becoming a better you.